A man just lost his job. His wife wants to divorce him, but as soon as the divorce is finalized, the woman regretted it. Because men only take 6 months, he became a millionaire. Chris was not successful in his early years. He was even a total loser. All of his family's savings was invested in a high-tech therapy device. He thought he could make a fortune, but the reality hit him in the face. No one wanted to buy the equipment. Now he has been unemployed for many months. Until this day, he saw a man in a luxury car on the side of the road. Chris asked him 2 questions. The man smiled and said he was a stockbroker, a job that requires a little math, and he knew how to deal with people. Then he could do the job. This is the moment he becomes a stockbroker. When he got home, he told his wife what he wanted to do. She said he was delusional. Chris didn't care. He waited downstairs for a month. He finally met the head of HR. He told Chris to wait until he got back. Chris lied and said he was on his way. Now he could finally talk to the supervisor. On the way, Chris tried to make himself look good, but the supervisor was clearly not interested. Looking at the Rubik's Cube in his hand, Chris said he could put it together. The supervisor handed the cube to Chris. Before getting out of the car, Chris handed the supervisor the cube. This is the first time the supervisor has looked directly at this young man, but he didn't realize his wife wanted a divorce. Chris decided to raise the child alone. Finally, Chris got a call from his supervisor. Invite him to attend the company's interview the day after tomorrow. The day before the interview, Chris was painting the walls. There was another knock on the door, and this time it was the police. Because of the delayed payment of the car fine, the police took Chris into custody. The next day, after Chris had rushed through the paperwork, there were only 10 minutes left before the interview. Chris went straight to the office. When he arrived, the interviewer called his name. Chris is wearing a vest jacket, appearing in front of the interviewer with paint on his face. He greeted the interviewer warmly and shook his hand, and then apologized for his outfit. Chris was very open and honest that he was detained overnight for a car fine. He didn't make any excuses. That made the interviewer feel better about him. Chris won the internship, but there was no salary during the internship period, and after the internship period ends, only one of the 20 interns can be left behind. Chris works hard, 9 hours of work. He must complete it within 6 hours. After 4 months, Chris finally sold everything he owned. He was no longer in dire straits, and then the gods struck Chris with another blow. The bank forced him to pay the taxes he owed. Chris was broke again. They were evicted from their hotel. Now they had no place to go. Father and son stayed in the bathroom. People outside were kicking the door down. Chris put his hands over his son's ears, listening to the kicking outside. Chris couldn't hold back his tears. He found out that there was a temporary shelter available, but he had to be there by 5 o'clock to get in line. By the time he got there were only 4 places left. When Chris wasn't looking, a man stepped in front of him. Chris fought the man on the spot. The father finally broke down. Luckily, the man next to him came out to testify. Chris was able to get into a shelter. At night, after putting his son to bed, Chris read a book in the hallway. Soon it was the last day of his internship. His supervisor called Chris into his office. Chris finally put on his suit and walked into the office. Once inside, he was once again calm and confident. The boss told him to wear a suit to work from now on, and that meant Chris had passed his internship. He couldn't help but get red-eyed. Only he knew how hard the journey had been, going out of the company. Chris walked briskly into the crowd. He couldn't help but applaud for himself.